it it goes more cautious in the sense that they do client side validation as well, and they will do server side validation as well. So the thing is that, like, say, I mean, you have to think very practically here. Now, say if you have opened a website and it caters to, say, it's an e-commerce website and it caters to uh, millions of customers, right? Now, whenever I'm trying to register as a user on your site, and I always forget to give the user ID, right? And I click on submit. So the request goes to a server, and you again respond back saying the user ID is not there. And even if there are, I mean, there is 1 million customer or maybe point 0.5 million customer who is doing this, and this is an absolute wastage of server time, right? The server bandwidth is associated, it is getting used, and it can also lead to, it can also lead to, what do you say? No, the server can stop. I mean, it can stall. It can stop responding to other requests as well. You have to go ahead and restart it. The server can go down. So to avoid that, it's always better to do both kinds of validations. You do preliminary validation the client side itself, so that you do not allow the customer to submit the form unless they are ready to do that. All right, unless they are ready to do that, and I mean, once they pass that preliminary level of validation, let's do server-side validation for for the same stuff as well, and also for some extra stuff. Some extra stuff because it might require DB validation, etc., which you can't do on the client side. All right, and the same stuff as well because see there are a lot of spoofing attacks which goes on. There are a lot of malwares. There are a lot of hackers around who always try to find a way out. They'll make their own client, they'll try to hit using it, and then they'll hit using it, and that can cause problems, right? So your application can fail there. So that's why it's always better to have uh, more validations, okay, uh, to have both client side and both server side, so that you can stop useless requests, the request where user ID is not there in the starting itself, where you can deter the hackers also. And just for consistency sake, you have in both the places, so that your application is a bit more secure. So these are the ideas around which, typically you'll see that the validations are included in both the places. Okay. So did I answer your question, Raghav? Okay.
So, Abhishek,
Yeah. I got one more
yeah,
question here. It was from you.
no, no, I just had a connected question.
Yeah, sure, sure. Tell me.
So both the sites validation can be achieved by the Struts validation.
See, Struts as such is a framework, right? And Struts comes into picture when you click on submit, and then you have a web.xml from where you associate Struts. So Struts comes into picture only when the request reaches server. Now, to do client-side validation, you have to come outside Struts in the sense that you have to do something on the GSP. So there, the Struts is not even, into picture. So you're using Struts tags, but once the data is loaded and once you click on submit and the data goes back to the server, the Struts is nowhere into picture at that point of time. So to implement client-side validation, typically we use JavaScript, okay? Or
Yeah.
you can have some scriptlets as well, and you can get your code getting executed from there also. But typically, what you do is that on click of submit, there would be you will call a JavaScript, and that JavaScript would be having some of the validations such as that if document.name is it's not there, then show that pop-up saying that, or maybe not only pop-up, show something else that it's that your name is not present on the website, something of that sort. So typically it's not done. Struts 2 or even Struts 1 does not support it. You have to do it outside using JavaScript. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
There's one more person who pinged me, but when I see the ping here, it's not showing. Who was that person? Can you ping me again? Oh no, no, I got it. Can you extend action support class and implement action interface at a time? Uh, you can, I think you can do it. I mean, you can try it out, but typically action support implements action interface only, right? So even if you like implement it, I mean, you will have the option of overriding it. I mean, you have the option of implementing the actual methods which are defined in the interface. The same stuff you can do via extending, I mean, the action support class and overriding the methods which is available there. So I think you can do it, but it might not add any benefit. It's the same method as such. Did I answer your question, Shala? It was Shala only, right? Yeah. Did I answer your question? Shala, are you there? Okay. Thank you. Now the thing is that let's go forward. So instead of defining the field level errors, you also have the option of, like, say, not define the errors at the field level, but do it at the action class, or say at the page level. Okay, so that is also supported by Struts. So if you have 20 fields and out of them 10 fields failed validation, now you can show there is, I mean, it's all depends on design. Just next to the field you can go ahead and show the actual message, okay, which I have shown right now, or at the top you can show all the messages in one go, okay, maybe some bit generic messages as well, and do it. So if you want to do it at the action level, then also the support is there. If you want to do it at the field level, that also we have discussed earlier, I mean just before this discussion. So the thing is that Struts 2 supports both kinds of validations. Now let's go and see here again. I mean, I'll repeat some of the stuff again and again so it's very clear to you. Action support class implements action interface. It has default implementation for most of uh, uh, the things which are there inside the action interface, including validate method. And if you override, you're providing your own implementation here of how you want the validation to be done. So instead of saying here that add field error, if you see, they are saying add action error. Again, this add action error method is also present in action support class. Got it? So it is also present in action support class, and here you just give the message. So if you see and draw comparison, add field error method had two input parameters. One was a field name, password, username, etc. And the second name was the actual message. But here in this case, you only have the message, you don't have the field name, because you're showing it at the action level, you're showing it at the top of the page, right? So just write add action error, field can't be blank, or whatever is the message you want to show. Okay, now to use this, I mean, if you remember, for field level, if you're using struts tags, you need not add or do anything else. The struts will take care of this for you. But for action tags, for message to be displayed at the action level, you have to actually include this particular line, s colon action error. So this tag has to be used. If you use this tag, then only Struts 2 will add your action level messages at the top, otherwise it will not. So this is a change in the JSP which needs to be done. Okay. So apart from that, there is no other difference between uh, getting the action level messages or getting the field level messages. Okay. So again, the same stuff. I mean, you have name, password, you keep one, or either like keep name blank, click on submit. You're going to get a message like this: fields can't be blank. Okay. So this is how you do it at the action level. I mean, action level starts to validation. Okay. So I'll just again stop here because the next one is again something different, and I'll ask you folks whether you guys understood or not understood. Is it clear till now? Okay. 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 I'll move forward. Yeah, thank you. Now there are different ways of doing validation as well, right? Now the other way of doing validation is that uh, the other way of doing validation is that instead of extending the action support class, you can also provide all the validations in an XML. Okay, and if you provide all the validations in an XML, I mean there is a typical way in which its naming etc. should be, but it has all the validation which has to be done. And again, I mean there is nothing else which is required. So let's go to the next page and see. So the validation file name has to be action name hyphen validation.xml. So say if your action name is register, then this name will be register hyphen validation.xml. If your action name is say save data, then it will be save data hyphen validation.xml. Okay, so that's how it can be, and that's how it has to be. And this particular XML file will be there on the class path. Okay, now let's go below and see. So see, this is how it has to start. It has to start with validators and it has to end with validators, and every other field level validation has to be inside it. And this XML file is one per action class, and that's the reason the name is action name. I mean whatever is action name hyphen validation.xml. And for every field which is associated, like say in the GSP you have name, age, or maybe password, etc., you can give the options here. So if it is name, what is the kind of validator which is required? So in this particular case, if the field, if the name, if the name is name and the field validator type is required, so it means that the Struts 2 has to see whether user has given this as input or not. If not input, it means that you have to give uh, an error message, and the error message here is the name is required. So you do not have to hard code anything. These are some inbuilt stuff which actually comes, and the field validator which is used here is of the type required. So this is just checking whether the field value has been provided by the user or not. Okay, and now if you come here in the age, which is the second field, the field validator name is int. Okay, the field validator name is int. So what this typically does is that I mean it gives the value has to be typed int. If you give anything else, it's going to give error. First of all, second of all, it has minimum and maximum value ranges. That what is the minimum age? That it has to be less than 29, and what is the maximum age? What is the minimum age? That it has to be greater than equal to 29, and what is the maximum age? That it means it has to be less than equal to 64. So age has to be between certain limit. Okay, and that's what you display after. If it doesn't satisfy, then you display this particular error message as well. Okay, so these kind of validations are available. Many inbuilt validations methods are there. It's not possible to discuss all of them, but I mean whenever required, you can search on the patches thread side and find out which validation can be done. But let me show you some of the stuff so that you get an idea of what all things are supported. Okay, so the first thing is date validated. Now if you see here, it sees that the validator type is date, what is the minimum value, what is the maximum value. So it starts from 1982, goes until 1992. So this is the details between minimum and maximum, and then you display a message, and the message also can be dynamic in the sense that you are taking the values from here and values from here. So it need not be a constant value. So if tomorrow you change these two values, you will not change your message. So this also is one of the types of validators already provided by Struts 2 framework. You also have an option of doing double value validator. That if you want to say, instead of doing int validation, if you want to say that uh, your amount or petrol rate or whatever has to lie between two values only, that is minimum selling price, maximum selling price. I'm just giving an example, hypothetical, nothing like that exists. But if you have something on petrol rate, that the minimum rate in which it has to be sold is this one and the maximum rate is something else, as per your application, you can define it here. Okay, and again the message is dynamic. You can use this min exclusive, max exclusive parameter names. So this basically, instead of doing int validation, it does double value validation. Okay, You also have the option of doing email validation, and if you see again, this email validator is already provided by Struts itself, and internally it must be checking for some of the items. I mean, I don't think that if it will also check whether your email exists or doesn't exist, and whether your domain is valid or not valid. I mean, those validations, like say if I just give my, I mean, if I give my email ID in some website as Abhishek at gtail.com, I mean, it might not be possible for them to verify that gtail.com is not existing. Although I have seen applications where there has been some sort of listing where they list every possible uh, like say domain name, Gmail, Yahoo, this, that. But typically it's avoided because there's so many email IDs available, there's so many domains available that it might not be possible for you to list and find out everything. The kinds of validation which is done is to see whether ad is present or not, there's some domain name or not, there is some domain.com etc or not. So that, and that validation on the, what you say, on the very base level is done. Once that validation pass, even if you give some wrong user ID, some wrong email, it's going to go, it's going to get through. I mean, there is no more validation which can exist more than that. But even that much requires some time and effort to do, and it has already been saved using these validators which are already available. So this was email validator. Then you also have the option of giving regular expressions. So this, the expression which I given here is that the value has to lie between small letters A to Z and capital letters A to Z. So that's how the expression has been defined, and you can say whether it is satisfying the expression or not satisfying the expression. That is out here. Again, int validator we saw above only. Again, it has got repeated here. So that is the stuff. Then regex validator is nothing but, I mean, you can give regular expression, the same stuff which I did earlier. Okay. So this was for regex validator. Now required validator is what we saw earlier. If the type is required, like you can, if you do not provide those values, then it can come as, you can display a message that username or name was not provided, field name can't be null. So that thing can be there. Again, similarly, you have required string stuff where you can again do the same thing, that username must not be null. You can also put validation around the length of the string. The username has to be of maximum 10, or there's a minimum value also. You can provide that stuff here. The minimum value has to be 10, the maximum value has to be 10. It means that the username has to be exactly of 10 characters. But you can provide the minimum length, maximum length, whatever is the requirement. I mean, basically, Struts 2 will support your validation from both ends, that you want to do some validation on the size of the string, the greater than. Are you guys able to hear me? Right now, is it clear? Still? So I have the full network. Is it still breaking? Okay. Okay. Let me continue. If you're having problem, just ping me. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. So string length, you also have validation on that. Then you have this URL validated. So what it does is that typically you can have validation on the URL as well, that the URL has to be this particular value. Okay. So that also you can do. If it is not, then you can give the invalid homepage URL or whatever message you deem will will suit. Okay. So this is what I have at the what do you say, at the custom, at the validated level. Okay, so any questions till now? Did you guys understand?